Hi everyone. So today I'm going to try to show you some basic stuff with Mininet. It's going to help you to solve the hands-on exercise which was provided in class. You'll find it in the OneNote platform. So this is not an exact solution of the work you've been provided with, but rather some insights that's going to help you to solve that exercise. So let's open the terminal of our CVM and let's have a look at the files and directories. So we have Mininet here, so let's change the directory to Mininet. And again, let's view the files and directories in Mininet. So we have the examples folder. So let's change the directory to examples. So next up, we're going to launch the Mini Edit, which is a graphical user interface for Mininet. It will help you to build a network. So for that, we write sudo python sudo python miniedit.py. Okay, there you go. We have the graphical user interface. So now we want to click on the left-hand side host button and just, like place it anywhere on the canvas. H1, H2, H3, we have three hosts here. And then perhaps a switch. Oops. All right. You know what? Let's do this. Let's just skip all five of them. Okay, yeah. Let's just skip three. That looks good. And let's use a switch. And we basically connect the hosts to the switch using netlink. So you just drag from H1 to the switch S1, H2 to switch S1, H3 to switch S1, right? So we'll also need a controller. The controller in Mininet is like a central entity that manages how the network switches forward packets. It's acting like the brain of the network. And it just, makes decisions about routing and traffic handling. So without the controller, you'll see that open flow switches don't know how to forward packets. So let's do this. We take a controller. Let's just drop it here on the canvas. We use a netlink to connect the controller to the switch. So if we right-click on the host and go to properties, we'll be able to set their IP address. So let's just, take the IP address to be 10.0.0.1. And for this, oh, and I just wanted to show you that you'll be able to see the changes over here, right? So new host details for H1, it says host name, H1, IP is 10.0.0.1, right? Okay. Now let's add the next host's IP address. So again, we right click, go to properties, and 10.0.0.2. And let's do the same with H3. Go to properties, 10.0.0.3. Okay, great. So now that we have the IP addresses set as well, let's try to Let's try to save the file. So, what I necessarily did is we'll go to home. We'll go to seed. And I've actually created a folder in documents called Arin, and I'm going to save it there. You'll see there's already Mininet topology file. So I'm just going to replace it for now because I wanted to call it tester, so I'll just, or if I can also, like name it something else, like perhaps tester um 2, for example. Right, let's save it there. Oh, so there's another thing that I wanted to show you. So you go to edit and you go to preferences, and you would want to click on start CLI. That's because if you don't enable it, you have to manually, like open the terminal and run it. So you would have to do that. And the IP base is basically the starting IP address of a subnet from which other IP addresses are assigned. And you would want to select OpenFlow 1.3. It's just determining the version of OpenFlow. Okay, wonderful. I would really like to save it again. Yes, overwrite. Okay, great. So now I would want to run it. So just click run. Okay, wonderful. So we are inside the Mininet CLI. Now what we can do is we can type ping all, see what we get. We use this command to test connectivity between all the hosts in the network. So 0% dropped or 6 by 6 received basically means that none of the packets have been dropped. So if it was a number other than 0 here, you could tell that there is an issue in connectivity between either like H2 or H3 or H1 and H3 or or like connectivity between any two hosts is not all right. So that would indicate that there is an issue. So 0% drop basically indicates that all hosts can communicate perfectly. So now let's move with the next ping command. So let's say if you want to check the connectivity between H1 and H2, you can write H1 ping H2. So ping 10.0.02 necessarily means that the destination IP address that you're trying to ping is this, which is like H2, right? And 64 bytes from this IP address indicates that each ICMP packet or ping sent from H1 received a reply from H2 with the size of data being 64 bytes. And ICMP sequence number that you can see is like the sequence number of the ping request. So it increments with each ping being sent, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And then you have TTL equals to 64. So TTL stands for time to leave. So it basically indicates how many hops the packets can take before being discarded. So in this case, it's 64, meaning that the packet is likely staying within the same network. So no routing beyond the local network. That's what it indicates. And the time here, this just shows the round trip time, which is the time it took for the packet to travel from H1 to H2 and back to H1 again. And this time is measured in milliseconds. And then you'll see some ping statistics below. 16 is indicating that you sent 16 ping requests, and all 16 were successfully received by H2. There was no packet loss, and that is indicated by the 0% packet loss that you can see here. And 15213 milliseconds here is the total time taken for the 16 ping requests, which is this time over here. And then if you notice RRT over here, so RRT min slash average slash max slash mdev. Okay, so mean here is the minimum round trip time. Average is the average round trip time. And max is the maximum round trip time, and mdev is the standard deviation of the RRT time. So the RRT time, the standard deviation of RRT time is this, and yeah, and RRT itself. Okay, so not RRT, sorry, RTT. RTT basically stands for round trip time. Okay. Wonderful. So now what do we mean by min and max again? So min is like the one with the fastest reply, the one which took the least time. And max stands for the slowest reply, the one which took the maximum time, right? So okay, so now I'm going to use the IPERF3 command to measure the network throughput. So we start the IPERF server on H2. Well, in this case, H2 IPERF3 -S. And as you can see, it is listening on port 5201. So let's just press Control-C and go back to the Mininet CLI and open separate X terminals for H1 and H2 to do our job more neatly. All right, and another terminal for H2. Wonderful. So in the, oops, this is not what I wanted. Okay, so we go to H1 and we start the, sorry, we go to H2 and we start this IPERF3 server on H2. So we write IPERF3. Okay, so the server is listening on port 5201. So it's making it, so it's necessarily making it to listen for incoming test traffic. And the default port is 5201. And then we start it on H1. To do so, we write IPERF3-C and 10 points. So we're going to write the IP address of H2 here, 10.0.0.2. So it says connecting to host 10.0.0.2. So this is basically H2. Now let us try to understand what the output necessarily means. I'll try to. So, okay, I can't really make it bigger. I'm not sure if you can see it. So I actually took a screenshot of the output of the IPERF3 tests. Again, we use it to measure the network performance, that is the bandwidth between the two hosts. So let's break down the key sections. So okay, so we have the transfer here. I'm not sure if I can use, okay, yeah. I have the transfer here. So the transfer basically tells us about the amount of data that is sent during each interval. So like in the interval between 0 to 1 seconds, 1.66 gigabytes has been sent. And then from 1 to 2, 1.58 gigabytes has been sent, and so on. And the bit rate is basically telling us about the bandwidth used for the data transfer. This is a measure of how fast data is being transmitted. So like 14.2 gigabits per second, for example. And RETR necessarily means the number of retransmitted packets during each test. So let's say, for example, between the interval 0 to 1, 0 packets were retransmitted. And let's say in the interval between 4 to 5, 4 packets were retransmitted, right? So this just indicates some packet loss or delay. And what else? Yeah, let's perhaps go to this section. So if you notice that the time interval is 0 to 10 seconds, and 0 to 10 seconds for both the sender and receiver. And the sender transferred 12.2 gigabytes, and the receiver received 12.2 gigabytes, right? So the same amount of data was sent and received. Okay. So you can actually try some other stuff as well, like modifying the test duration. You look at this image where we do not use -T5. So the interval here is 10 seconds. And you'll see that the amount of data transferred is 43.4 gigabytes. Right. So if we try to do the same data transfer, but at half the time interval, that is 5 seconds, using -T5, let's see what happens. I'll just show you another image. The reason why I'm showing images is because the font size is really small. Now, if you look at this image, you'll see that we're trying to see the performance at a time interval of 5 seconds. So the amount of data transferred is half of what was transferred earlier. So yeah, so it's supposed to be fewer data is supposed to be transferred than what was transferred when the interval was 10 seconds. So yeah, that is the gist. Another thing to try is interval reporting. And what the significance of interval reporting is that it is going to report throughput every let's say if you put -I2, it would report throughput every 2 seconds. If you put -I4, it would report throughput every 4 seconds. So you'll see that here we see 2-second interval being applied. So it's like 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 46, 68, and 8 to 10, and so on. And if you change the value from 2 to 4, you'd be basically seeing the transfer, the bit rate, and so on, and all the other values at an interval of 4 seconds. So it will be like 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, and so on. And then you would have to like figure out what the output really means and how it is different at every 2-second interval and at every 4-second interval. That is your task to do, but this is the basic of how to use Mininet and Mininet Edit, of course. If you have questions, feel free to email me.